Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Conference 21 Weekly Roundtable. We have Bruce Jones, Coach Lois Koffi, and Rick Cram with us, who are speakers Conference 21. So those of you who don't know, Conference 21 just happened this past weekend. Hopefully, you all had a good experience who are on the screen here. Yes, yes.
Very much.
And if not, I got a mute button. Oh, no. We had a good time.
It was very good.
The next one is coming up. Next one is coming up May 21st to 23rd. So if you missed the first one, you can buy your May ticket. And actually, if you buy the May ticket, it gives you access to the member section, which has all the recordings of the February talks. So it actually gives you access to the past and the future.
All access pass.
That's all access. Yes. Yeah. I've had a number of people suggest that I should do add-ons. You know, sell the videos for extra or sell this for extra. And you did, yes. And the reason I'm not doing this, two reasons. One is that it seems to require a lot of organization to keep track of where all that goes. And the other is that I want to make it a very simple value proposition. That you're like, $21 for everything? That's crazy. How could I not buy that? As opposed to, I don't know what I want to do. So, and for me personally, if I pay for the videos, I'm going to feel anxiety from that moment on. Anxiety of, should I buy them? I don't know. And now I bought them. Have I watched them? Are they going to run out on me? Am I wasting my money? So
maybe you could.
I don't want to cause me anxiety.
So topics, so that there's tracks that go as they kind of slowly build out a series of tracks, and people could go look at the marketing track or the sales track or the mindset track, and just organize them so that
I do eventually get to a library concept. So at some point I'll organize. Again, I need to figure out what to do with them because it's 7.5 gigabytes of data for all the videos we have. So I think I may upload them as unlisted YouTube videos, and that way I can just have links to them. So, but I need to figure out what to do with this. I'm like, oh, just upload the videos because I'm used to a 30-minute video, and then I realized, wait, that's 30 hours of video, 31 with the keynote. That's a little more logistics to work about. So we're working on it. But the best way to do is to come see it live in May, and that way you won't miss out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's gonna be exciting.
Okay. So wait. All right. So once around the table, so everyone can introduce themselves. So we'll go clockwise to introductions, and then we'll go counterclockwise for our topics. So Bruce Jones, who are you? What are you all about?
I'm Bruce Jones, Bruce Jones Design, and I help people, new authors, get their books off the ground and get them started. And I just released my latest book, How to Sell Your Book, based on all the different books that I've put together. And so I take what I do as practice and do that. And you can learn more about me at there. You see it down below, right there in the link, brucejonesdesign.com. You can see all the books and courses and blog posts and everything about what I do and how we help authors. And there's a big Facebook group too.
And I did get a copy of your book, and I read halfway through, and then I realized, this is a book of things I need to do, not just learn. And I don't have time for that right now. It's definitely stuff that if I do it, I will sell many copies of a book. I just need to find the time to do it. But it's incredible information, and if somebody just got 10 pages of that, they could probably 10x their sales of their book. Right. Let alone the whole thing.
I don't intend people to do all the things. It's just do a couple of them and move the needle. That's all that I try to get people to do. Is just move the needle a little bit, and you don't need to do much, and you can increase the sales of your book just by sort of being a little bit more proactive. And I give you lots of tips on how to do it. So there you go.
Yep. Progress, not perfection, as Coach Lois told me.
That's right. I do perfection free progress.
So Rick Cram, tell us about yourself.
Thank you, Michael. Great to be here with you and all of you. I am a consultant, strategist, and facilitator with a program called Plan to Be Your Best as You Navigate Change to equip leaders and their teams to lead themselves and others when change challenges everything. And certainly we're all experiencing a fair dose of that now. We'll sort of do a little bit of a deep dive into one particular topic based on something that we all saw in an article from entrepreneur.com on one of the top 10 biggest challenges that businesses, especially small businesses, are experiencing right now.
Very good. And we'll get to that momentarily. So stay tuned if you like that topic because it's coming up soon. And Lois.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me back here today, guys. It's exciting to be able to support you, Michael, because you just really exploded and give so much value with your Conference 21. So I hope you guys take advantage and come check us out in May. I'm a sales trainer and podcaster, and I basically coaches and speakers hire me to help them pivot from offline to online sales in this new normal. My topic for the last Conference 21 was list building to freedom. Today, I'm going to talk about how to monetize podcasts. I'm a fairly new podcaster, and there's a lot of people out there who don't succeed at it. And in this new normal, it's one way to be seen, be heard, be paid, and generate leads while you sleep, as well as income while you sleep. So we'll talk a little bit about that later.
Okay. And of course, I guess I should introduce myself for anyone who doesn't know me. I am Michael Whitehouse. I am the founder and chair of Conference 21. In other words, the guy who came up with the crazy idea that then brought other better people together to actually make it a great event. I shouldn't say better. I should say smarter. No, I shouldn't say smarter. But anyway, a lot of really great people that came together to make it a great event. But I am also a coach. I help people overcome their points of being stuck, their limiting beliefs, especially around figuring out next steps in life, whether it's finance or career, and how to navigate this very unique economy in history. And I don't mean COVID. I mean, it was unique before COVID. And then COVID happened to make it even more complex. So that's what I do. But so now on to Lois. You are our first topic master, talking about, if I have the right text here, monetizing a podcast or an email list.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's one of those things where last year I didn't have either, because a year ago this month, right, we were still pre-pandemic, if I can call it that. And I remember when the pandemic hit, I was like, crap. I might have said something else, but I'm trying to keep this PC. What do I do? And I thought back to my coach that I hired in 2019. And guess what? I listened to his podcast, which was free content, right? I got on his email list. And guess what? I hired him not more than maybe 2 months later. And I was like, I think I'm going to take a page from his book. Again, not knowing what I was doing. And that's why I hired a coach to help me do it. And sure enough, since then, I have had most of my income, I'd say 80% of it came from my podcast / email list. So I know there's statistics out there, though. I didn't want to be a statistic. I had been on many podcasts. I have friends who were, podcasting and they essentially were broke, or they would even say in their own terms, not mine, it was an expensive hobby. It was fun. And so that was one of the reasons I didn't want to do a podcast for 3 years, and was kind of like, do I have the time and the money, right? Those were my limiting beliefs, talking about what you were saying, Michael. And thankfully, I had a coach and I followed the steps, and I've been able to make most of my income through that. So open to questions, thoughts, feedback, but it's been a ton of fun, and I've really enjoyed it.
That's excellent. I'd love to ask you a quick question. Do you describe this basically as, and maybe build it out even further in terms of a sales or marketing funnel?
Brilliant. Yes, absolutely. So it's basically my number one lead magnet. If people come and tune into my podcast, like Michael was just on I did my live stream. That's what I was running in hot just before this. So I use StreamYard. I do choose to be one of those rare podcasters that does it live to build an audience and video. And then I also have it uploaded, obviously, iTunes, and I repurpose it in YouTube, and all of those, every single one has links to, hey, if you want to talk to Lois, click here for, a consult or an offer of the day or a free webinar, or go talk to Michael. My guest, Michael's been on my podcast, and I'm always there to help use it as a JV funnel opportunity. So their audience comes, my audience comes, we do an exchange, and that's how I, grew my list from 0 to 2,000, and then eventually 4,000. They come in, and then they get to find out, what else do I have going on, or my guest has going on. And so it's been a great JV partnership opportunity as well. But you're spot on. It's my number one lead magnet.
I have a couple of questions, but the ones that just to trigger off of what you just said was what is your frequency that you do them, and how long did it take you to build out those 4,000 leads?
Great question. So the short version is, when I started, I studied a lot of other podcasters and took the best and made it my own. And so for what resonated with me, and I'm not even saying that it's the best way to do it. I do one monologue a week where it's just me, and it's usually 15 to 20 minutes of pure value content and coaching, based on what I coach in sales and stuff like that. And then the other one is the interview. So one monologue, one interview. And there are times where I've double dipped. Like this week, I had a monologue and 2 interviews because it went with my whole sales and marketing plan. So very strategic, but that's enough for me to handle. And I do have an audio visual guy who basically I just push play, hit record, and then he does the rest on the back end. If I didn't have that, I would probably only do what my podcasting coach even suggested, was just one a week because of the time, the energy, the effort. And I now do have a full-time virtual assistant who also helps with the marketing. So I've come a long ways since July. I would say I pre-launched in May. I had my first guests just to test it out and test the waters and see that I really wanted to do it. That's when I started building my list. So from May until September is what took
That's
me
impressive.
from
that's
zero.
that's really, really good. If I can just ask one more question that kind of related to that. So what a number of people are doing, and actually what I'm thinking of doing too, is I use StreamYard a lot. I do a lot of broadcasting, but instead of doing, I just want to get your feeling, what you think about this. Instead of sort of making a formal podcast with the beginning and the end and the music and the things, is basically just taking the audio tracks of my StreamYard broadcasts, maybe thinking a little bit more on the tags on each end of it, but basically just pushing those up there. So it's sort of a pseudo podcast as opposed to a formal thing, but at least it's just taking all my content and pushing it into another channel.
That's brilliant. I did that, to be honest with you. I didn't have an audio guy at the beginning, and I was just, I started out with my phone recording on my, voice recorder, and then just uploaded it into Podbean, which was my initial platform. And that was it. I didn't have the sexy intro, the sexy outro. I didn't do that until July. So absolutely. And that's what my coach did. My first coach that I hired through podcasting, he didn't have any intro or outro either, and he probably did it for years and years, and so much content, so much value, repurposing it. He has made millions as a sales trainer himself, and he didn't make it all sexy and exciting until actually this year is when he finally did it. So he's probably been doing what you're exactly talking about for years.
Yeah.
There are different schools of thought on what to give away. Some people don't want to give away too much at all. One great formula I've heard is that give away what to do, but have people pay how to do it. How do you reconcile that, Lois? What do you share without getting paid?
Great question. And I actually just finished a course. I taught a course through my podcast. And so I reconciled with and that's actually how Michael and I started connecting. He took one of my very first, I actually charged up front for it, but it was $7 to attend this content, podcast content. And then I took it down. And then on the back end, I sold something. So I'm all about Gary V's book, Jab, Jab, Right Hook, right?
Good book.
I'm all about give. Okay, guys, now it's time to, here's my offer, and who wants to sign up? So I was able to make $30,000 from my last quote unquote podcast consumed course, free on the front end, sold something on the back end. And that was a huge, huge win for me. I didn't start out that way. My first few, I didn't do anything close to that because I was still learning on how to deliver good training and value, and then ask for the sale on the back end.
So Rick, one of the ways that I've done that, so in this book, when I wrote this book and I designed this book with worksheets and places that you fill in, here it is, that you fill in the book, right? So I designed it inside the book with the intent that I pull them out. And I now have 3 giveaways, lead magnets that I can test or give away that are just pulled exactly out of the book. So like you write your book with the worksheets, with the little workbook, checklist, whatever it is you want in the book, and then you just take them out and put a little cover on it. And at the back of it, you put your book catalog for your stuff. But you did one action and you just did it once, and you get multiple uses out of that action. So that's it's all tied together. So you say, here's my book, but you can get my worksheets, and this can be the download that while you're on a podcast, say, hey, go check out my book selling checklist. And it's really, it's beneficial for the reader, but it also helps drive some traffic, maybe to sell some books.
Go for it. That's excellent.
Yeah. In terms of simplifying the overhead. So I, my podcast, the Guy Knows a Guy podcast, where I've had a number of you on it. Rick, I can't remember if I've had you on the podcast. Actually, I can't remember if I've had Lois on the podcast or not. I know I had Bruce.
I gave Michael things to go to.
Because I do the live cast, I do the podcast, a bunch of things. But the way I came up with the roundtable is I realized it could get more value and more impact for less work. Because with the audio podcast, it's a 30 to 60 minute interview, and then I'm going to spend 30 to 60 minutes producing it. Recording the bit in the front and the bit in the middle and the bit at the end, and editing together and putting the music on it and whatnot. Whereas with this, it's a matter of scheduling, which doesn't take all that long because I can schedule the next 6 weeks all at once, and then going on StreamYard and hitting start, and then we go, and it's now out there. Like when I hit end broadcast, it's out. I can then download the audio and put it into the audio feed or something else if I want to. But the moment I hit end broadcast, it is on Facebook, it's on YouTube. It's all happening, and thanks to StreamYard, it's got all this, cool fuchsia logo everywhere, so that it can connect. And that's what I think for people who are thinking about that, either they can hire Eric Beals, who was on Lois on your show, or kind of figure out what the path is that works with your style and your attention span, and your way of engagement. So it doesn't have to be. Yeah, I always say there's 3 ways you can do: audio, video, or text, or some combination of them. But once you realize they're all basically the same thing, a blog, a podcast, or a video, they're all basically just content in 3 different forms. Once you think of it that way, then it's which tool is the right tool for the job.
So,
and I was going to say, Bruce, I have an idea that someone else gave me. So here, it's free. Take it, run with it, monetize this for me. Okay. Maybe we can work on this together. And Michael, you could do this too, but someone who's like podcasting guru said that what he does is he puts all these book projects together, right? And basically it's all the transcripts from podcast episodes, the greatest hits. So that's something that I want to do. But that could be another way for you to help authors and podcasters kind of have more content out there.
There's an internet marketer, Dan Hall, who was one of the first. There were 2 people that brought me into the internet marketing world. Daniel Hall was one of them, and he does a lot of stuff about publishing. And he did a podcast for a long time, and basically the half-hour podcast, that was about his length. And he would dive deep into a topic and interview a person. He took all those transcripts and turned them into Kindle books. And if you go on Amazon and look under Daniel Hall, you'll see about 70 books. He has the same cover. He just changes the words, just to see if find about one design. And he has about 70 books that are out there with all the links and everything. So you're just generating book content. It's, you just transcribe it through Rev or Timmy or, however you want to do it. And he just generates ebooks, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. So that's that's even that's a great way. The other thing, Michael, I was going to say, I don't know whether you did it or not, but I launched this book I set up a challenge, a 4-day challenge where I taught the 4 main chapters of the book. So each day was a different chapter. I just taught it. And I took the StreamYard allows you to there's a description where you put all the text in. So I saw somebody else doing this. I put an expanded description. So what the day's show was, then the links for the book and the links for my site, and basically filled out all that information in the description for StreamYard. And then when it broadcasts on Facebook, you just go, if you want to learn more about me, you can get the book, whatever it is, it's right up above me, because in Facebook it's above. And if you're on YouTube, it's below me. It automatically goes with the video to all those places. So I just wrote like a standard bottom that had all my basic, my social media, my book links, everything. And then I just change the top paragraph for that day's thing. And it saves me so much time having to go back into YouTube and put the description back in. It's just all done. Yeah. And that way you can
I need to do more with that.
Yeah, you can talk in the video and point to people to go up there and do that, or go down there and do that. So.
Well, and I have one more tip for you guys, and then I can shut up because I want to get on to other topics. But if you want to share my link again, Michael, if you don't mind, this is a link that I learned, the loiskoffi.com/resources. So this I put in every single one of my episodes. This, if you go to that page and you scroll down, you'll see Matt McWilliams. He's the affiliate guy. That's another resource that is in everything I do. So if people say, oh, well, what does Lois have? I have my podcasting resources on there. I have all sorts of email marketing resources on there, and almost everything on there, not everything, but almost everything has some kind of affiliate referral fee that I get paid out on. So that inbox money. So you can all copy that and put that inside of your books and stuff like that.
This is an excellent page. I'm just looking at it now. I learned from my own blogs and things. The resource page everybody should have a resource page on their blog. It is almost the highest trafficked page. Once Google figures out you're doing it, and you don't have to go nuts, just add one here, add one there. Usually I use my page as a place for me to remember things I forget. I just stick them in there, and I kind of organize them in a left order. That Google loves that stuff. People love that stuff. It's a great traffic driver for your site. So
excellent tip.
This is really good.
And,
I'm gonna dig in that more as I get when we're done. So thanks, Lois.
Thank you. Yay.
That was wonderful. Really,
not quite as good as Lois, but it's not quite as exhaustive as hers is. But I did learn lessons and made my own resources page. So.
Yay! I know it is busy for sure.
Right now, so I want to be like nimbly looking things up behind the scenes. It's like, I'll think about loading that page for you. Give me 5 minutes. I'm like, no, the conversation's moving on. What need to do? Anyway, here it is. So, lesson: don't have a slow computer.
Reboot.
Speaking of slow computers, I believe Rick is going to talk to us about how to boost creativity in the virtual work environment.
Have any of you looked at some of these top 10 lists lately? There are a few of them that have come out regarding the top 10 most challenging things small business or mid-sized businesses are experiencing. Well, there's one that I saw at Entrepreneur.com, and let me just go through a few slides to help tell the story. Let's see if this works. And let's see. Let me know if this, pardon me, where's that window? So actually, as I'm searching for this, I saw one piece of trivia that was interesting. Part of the challenge, of course, is people being over-Zoomed. All these virtual meetings, people are exhausted with them. But the piece of trivia I once heard was that before a meeting, think in terms of which is actually the thing that's going to keep you awake more or help you wake up the most. Is it coffee, tea, or apples? What do you think?
Coffee, tea, or apples?
I'm going to go apples because it just sounds like the odd one out.
Apples is correct. That's quite right. So I was so surprised when I heard that. But this item number 7 in this article at entrepreneur.com, Doreen Pierce put this together, lacking creativity. And there are 2 comments in particular that she referred to, one by a couple of business owners. Ryan Scribner said, in the past, a lot of our best ideas came from group meetings where we would all would meet and share our thoughts. So that's become much more challenging during these COVID months and quarters and maybe years. And then the second one was Zoom fatigue. So I thought I would just take a moment to address both of them and offer a couple of tips. The first thing I think is worth to look at is if we take it from the approach of problem solution. The challenge with change, when change challenges everything, our emotional responses, as well as high levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, make it harder for us to function. We have more fatigue, making decisions is more challenging, disengagement goes up, productivity goes down, we don't communicate as well, teamwork. If we take a look at these things, especially with this one challenge that entrepreneur.com was focusing on, three really stand out: fatigue, indecision, disengagement, and weak teamwork. So when it comes to what to do about it, well, this is the second part of the Plan to Be Your Best strategic framework. Plan to be your best as you navigate change. It's a step-by-step process instead of strategies for how to do more effective brainstorming and decision-making. The one thing that stands out about this, since people can't get together as much as they used to, the thing to focus on is this. I've actually found, working with creative teams at ad agencies, when I was a client as well, that the best ideas actually come up after effective defining meetings, briefings to make sure everyone's got the same information, to create, by design, solo time, where people can go for walks, go for drives, work out, whatever it might be. During that solo time is when the better ideas, I found, come up. So that's one thing that people can do to try to instill more creativity. Secondly, when it comes to the Zoom fatigue, and actually, I saw this article on Forbes.com in April of last year, only a little over a month after the shutdown in March, referring to Zoom fatigue. So it didn't take long for this to set in. Here are 4 tips on how to trade Zoom fatigue for virtual energy. One is to have a purpose and an agenda for every meeting. Make sure that everyone participates. No one person speaks for more than 3 minutes at a time, because the more someone goes on and on, even if it's packed with the good information and they need to create a message that might take 10, 15, 20 minutes or more to get across. If it's delivered in smaller nuggets, that helps. And then to use edutainment. Entertain people in a way that's relevant, but helps with the education. That's one of the things that I've been practicing for a number of years, actually a couple of decades. So those are the thoughts that I was eager to share with you. Those are challenges that we're all associated with, we're very familiar with. We read about it every day, and a couple of thoughts for us to chew on.
Wow, that was amazing.
I like the solo time. That's I'll give an embarrassing one. This is an embarrassing solo time that I've known from years of being a designer. I've been a graphic designer for 30 years. And if you're stuck working on a project, you go to the bathroom and it is amazing. You will have a clarity of an idea. Something will come to you that you're stuck. You cannot think about. Changed your environment. You did something completely different than what you were doing. It's just getting up and going to the bathroom. And I'm not the only one that has. I know other people that had the same thing. And you go, oh, that's what I should be. Oh yeah, got it. Okay, and then you come back and you're ready to re-engage and kind of get going. So
exactly. There was this one. I was working with Leo Rice and other terrific people at an ad agency. One of our clients was one of the top teaching hospitals in Boston. And we needed to come up with a new brand for them. We've already been months into working with them to understand what needs to be in part of that messaging hierarchy. We had a couple of meetings to go through all the information. Then we took a break. Scott, who's this fantastic copywriter, comes in for the next session and sits down and says, what do you think about the best when you need it most? Boom, that was it. And it was a part of the campaign that helped take this struggling hospital to be one of the leading ones here in Boston, Tufts New England Medical Center. So that's how it works. Exactly.
One thing, I had a podcast guest actually, on how to work from home in this new normal. And he actually suggested, especially if you're like me and Michael, we have young kids, right? And so you were used to taking your kids to school. At least here in Southern California, we're still 100% homeschool. So we lost all of our routine, and just that solo time. I realized walking the kids to school, I miss out on that. Right. And getting into my car and going to BNI or networking meetings. So somehow finding ways to simulate that, like just go for a drive in the morning, pretend like you're driving to work, come back, or go for a walk and come back. That kind of stuff helps the brain in so many ways. So I really love that solo time as well.
I used that for years as my, as a graphic designer. I walked to my office. When I was in Boston, I had to walk from the train to my office. And when I moved to where we were living, I had a 7-minute walk, or I had a 20-minute walk. And my brain knew that was the thinking time. And I didn't talk on the phone. I didn't listen to music. I just walked. And it's amazing. Any of the ideas and things and products that you see me release were all done during that. My brain was like, okay, this is the time when you get to think about stuff. And I really cherished. I don't do that anymore because I'm kind of retired from that, and I just do this stuff. But it was very, very valuable for coming up with new ideas to do that. So
that's great. That's great. Excellent examples.
Yeah, I actually found recently. So I went into a kind of revenue dip, as I had a number of things that were cooking long term, but nothing short term. So I started driving for DoorDash and Uber Eats, and what I found was, I went from driving 14 miles a week to 200 miles a week.
I'm on a call right now, but do you need to talk to me? I can. Oh, sorry.
I went from. But you turned your video off, so that counts.
That was the wrong one. It was the wrong one. I apologize. This is real time. I have my kids and husband running around looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like,
no. All right,
it's the excitement of live television. But yes, so what I found is that, driving around, and basically I think of DoorDash as I get paid $20 an hour to listen to podcasts and audiobooks, which is a pretty awesome job, actually. So some of the best ideas I came up with for promoting Conference 21 for business, and sometimes it's, as Ivan Visner calls them, blinding flashes the obvious things that after you realize them, you're like, how did it take me 3 months to figure this out? Like the idea that Conference 21 is a scalable project, as opposed to coaching, which I charge by the hour, and thus I only have a finite number of hours, and there's a ceiling on what I can do with it. And it took me 3 months of planning to be like, wait a minute. This is a scalable project. I should start treating it like that, as something that can grow and collaborate. But I wouldn't have had that blinding flash of the obvious if I wasn't driving around for 6 hours and listening to. I think I was listening to the Business Wars about Uber and Lyft, actually, ironically, and I was listening to stories about startup businesses. I'm like, wait, this is like a startup business. Oh, and suddenly all these other things clicked into place because I had that quiet time. Which you're right. If you're working by yourself, you're thinking, well, I don't need to set aside solo time because I'm solo all the time. But it's not the same.
That's really good. And in fact, you touched on one of the other top 10 challenges, and that is long-range planning during a time like this. If I may, let me suggest this: don't even try to do long-range planning, because especially when we're dealing with challenging times, just focus on now. It actually helps reduce the cortisol. And one of the things I've learned through the 7 surgeries on my left knee is that when you've got a long-term chronic situation, just focus on the moment, focus on today. It calms down the emotions, calms down the elevated cortisol, and you're able to deal with pain and also help set the stage, if you will, for the mind to think more positively. So that's what we're all dealing with to one extent or another during these COVID challenges.
Yep. Even if you're thinking a long-term goal, don't worry about how you're going to get there. It's like, eventually I want to get there, but right now, how do we get through this week, this month? Not how do I plan out the next 24 months, which we don't even know when pandemic's ending or whatever. Focus on now and keep the distance in the future.
Right. I was just going to make a comment on something you said, Michael. It was one of the biggest changes that happened to me in mindset when you were talking about, driving around, was when I realized, I have a lot of products. I make books and make products, do all these kind of things. And I did them on the fringes, the edges. So I did them on the weekends. I did them in the evening. And one day I realized that I was my best client. I made more money from my own efforts than I did from my clients' efforts, because my things were scalable. And when I realized that I'm my best client, I should treat myself as if it's one of my clients and put as much time on myself as I do on a client, and move those projects from the weekends and the evenings into the daytime, because they contribute to the revenue just as much as any other law firm client or publishing client or anybody. So why am I sticking it off on the side? Work on it harder, because I make more money off of my own stuff than I do off of other people's stuff, and move it. And that was a huge, we all have little things on the side that we're sort of dabbling in and doing. And when you realize that you're your own client, just treat it that way. A huge difference in not having to work every evening. I still work the every evenings, but it just refocused the importance of what I was doing. So.
Yeah, I think the pandemic is a wake-up call for a lot of us. So that's why I called my podcast Healthy and Wealthy and Wise, how to work smarter and not lose your mind. I think a lot more people are health conscious, maybe. And I've heard more people openly talk about, man, I spending more time with my family now. Hopefully, for most of us, that's been a good thing, I think. So
it wasn't in the marriage vows, 360. Where was that?
I know
that check, that line, the check-off box on the contract,
I just think more people are understanding self-care is critical now more than ever. So I think we all, including myself, needed that wake-up call for sure.
Right.
The whole person experience. Any great challenge is a whole person experience. So good leadership for leading yourself and others through challenges means let's take a whole person approach, a holistic, healthy approach. That is so smart, Lois.
Yeah, well, one thing when you say about Zoom fatigue, going into Conference 21, so the event itself ran noon to 6, basically. Plus, we started the networking at 10 a.m. and then I let it run later. So on Saturday, I was on pretty much nonstop from 10 a.m. To 8 p.m. Which, thinking about that ahead of time, I'm thinking like, wow, that's going to be pretty rough. How am I gonna be feeling at the end of that marathon on the computer? But what I think really helped is that the platform we had some dynamism to it. So the networking, you could go from table to table to talk to different people. You weren't fixed there. And then you got off screen to watch a talk, and then you got back on screen to engage with people, and then back off and back on. And when I'd be watching a talk, I would often get up and walk around behind my chair while I'm listening to the talk, or I'd have some dumbbells next to me and use them. So I do a little bit of physical activity. So I wasn't just sitting in a chair for 10 hours straight. There was some movement, but I think the fact that the platform changes it up a bit, I think that's why. And I'm pretty sure I wasn't the only one who was on from open to close. I think there were a few others, or for a number of hours. I think it's awesome. Whereas a lot of the Zoom calls, it's, as you say, one person drones on for 10 minutes, and of course you're on camera, but you're not in the conversation. So you kind of have to pay attention to how you're looking, but you're not in it, but you're half in it. And I think there's a lot of things unique to Zoom that just make it very.
I love the networking feature, and especially I didn't realize how much I was going to like the 4 days of networking that preceded the conference. I altered my presentation because of it. I got to know some people. I got some feedback. I was like, oh, okay, I should be talking about this. Maybe let that part go. And I just thought, not only with the other speakers, which is where it was just us doing it, but, as people started to sign up and come in, I just thought it worked really well. And I thought, this should just be incorporated, even when you're doing a Zoom class challenge, something that's more formal. Throw a couple networking days at the front of it, even as Zoom, like free networking days or whatever, just to kind of build that community, even a loose community. That was really kind of eye-opening. It was like, wow, this actually, which is just what you do when you go to a conference. What you said, you meet the people in the hallway standing at the door before the thing's open. And I thought that actually worked extremely well. So, yeah,
I actually had someone ask me about the idea of if the format we have could be used for an intensive training. Because intensive training is usually it's on Zoom or something, and it's people talking at you, and then maybe you take a break. But take a break, everyone turn off your camera, walk away from your computer, come back. People talking at you. You might as well be watching it on TV because there's no interaction. But it might be 2, 3, 4 hours long, and I realized that the Slingshot platform would actually work really well for a traditional training, because oftentimes in the training, you take that 30 30 minutes talking and then 10-minute break. And then you turn to your neighbor and you say, hey, did you understand what he was saying with that? Or I was a little bit unclear about this part of it. And could you, what would you think? Oh, it meant this. And the kind of conversation you wouldn't want to have in the big Zoom room because the instructor's there and it's kind of awkward because it's not so much a question. It's more you want to check with somebody or even, sometimes you want to talk about the instructor and be like, is this list bothering you?
Yeah, a real conference is the bar, is where a real conference takes place. Yeah. Not the stage, the bar when you rehash it all out.
And to give myself a little plug here, actually, something that exists as an option.
You can have one too many drinks too, so that helps a little bit too. So.
Yeah, but the Slingshot platform that I now have access to, if somebody wanted to do like an intensive training, but have those little breaks where people can actually connect like you do in a real break, I and my platform could be hired to do that. So if anyone's ever looking for more innovative platforms or wants to use the Slingshot platform for something, then that option does exist, and you can reach out to me to find out about it. But yeah, I think we adopted Zoom, and they're like, hey, we found it, we're good, we're just going to use this, and nobody ever thought again about if there's a better platform. No, we got Zoom, it's fine. Whatever it is fine. If it's exhausting, being online is exhausting, and suddenly they realized there were some other things. I know, Lois, you need to be departing us momentarily. So, thank you for being on the show. I know that you're busy and have many demands on your time, so I appreciate that you've been able to spend 45 minutes here. And we'll actually, so thank you, Lois, and then we'll hand it over to Bruce here for his topic.
Thanks, guys. I'll tune into your segment later, Bruce. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Great. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about developing connections with influences in your market and creating what some people call the Dream 100, which are the people in your market that have bigger audiences than you have and are people that you should be looking to connect with and you can sort of hopefully use to propel yourself forward or to get some alliance with or something like that. And the number is it's just an arbitrary number. If you have a lot of hours in your day, 100 is a good one, but this could be 5 people. This tailors really well, I think, on what Lois's thing of looking, how do you find guests for your podcast? How do you connect with the market? Is connecting with the bigger players that are around you. So basically what it is, and I'm going to just kind of go through the points, and then I'm going to just, being that Rick went on screen, I'm going to do that and just show you how to find some of these people. We can do it pretty quick. So one is to research people in your market, that whatever your market is, and you probably already know at least 2 or 3 people, and the rest of them you can do by researching. I'm going to show you quickly kind of one way to do that. You're looking for people that have a bigger audience than you. So there are people at the very, very top. If we're doing politics, the top would be, Joe Biden, President Biden. But there are many levels that come down, and there's A people, B, C, and D. And the D's want to become C's, and the C's want to become B's, and they all kind of move their way up. And so you can connect with a lot. You might get an A, but you can easily connect with a C and a B, a C, and a D. Look, once you've found these people, you connect with them. Connect with them on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever they are, YouTube. Everybody is very, very visible, so nobody stops you. You can just connect, and you're connected to them. You also look at their websites. It doesn't have to be a person. It can also be a website or a blog that has a lot of information, or the person may run a blog that's really valuable too. I follow this woman, Jane Friedman, I think that's her name, Jane Friedman, who's a terrific publishing person. And every Saturday she sends out an email of just packed with cool information. It's the information I want. So that's a place that I would subscribe to. She has a bigger audience, so it works. Once you've sort of connected with them, then you can slowly start to make them aware of you. And so it's liking their comments. It's commenting on their stuff, buying their stuff, going to their conferences, things like that. You want to think of this as a long-term game. This is not something you're going to do, though you can do it in 60 to 90 days. If you say, I'm launching my book and I need to have some help getting this spread out. But this is part of a general business strategy that you do to build these connections with people. And most people, what you'll discover is some people get an enormous amount of likes, but most people don't get very many. And they will start to be you will start to be noticed if you give good comments, constructive comments, good likes, all that kind of stuff. They will start to see that, oh, there's a person over here. And if you buy their stuff, like their books, you can make comments, you can make them on their blogs, wherever, then they get to notice you even more. And the goal here is to build a relationship. You're kind of dating this person over a period of time, and you're trying to build a relationship so that when it comes your time, they maybe know who you are. You've come onto their podcasts, you come onto their shows. You know, we know Michael. That's why we're here, because, you know, I met Michael somewhere. We both live in the same community, and then you say yes. Basically, is what you do. You say yes, and then now here we are. And you know, so we're getting elevated to another platform, and then maybe they will reach out and help you when you're getting ready to launch your book. You kind of slowly say, "Hey, I'm working on a new book. I have this thing. Maybe you can help. Maybe you can ride on their audience." So let me just show you. I'm going to do this quick here because I was doing this yesterday. Let me go to. Just going to show share screen. Share screen, just the quick tips. So let's see, we'll share. Oops, I think I want just this one right here. All right, so I'm just, one of the places to look for people is Amazon, right? So a lot of the people that you may want to connect with have a book. So I'm just here on Amazon. I am just going to type in, I know nothing about fly fishing, but I often use it, fishing, and I'm just going to look at some books. All right, so we're just going to go to fly fishing books. We're on Amazon, and up come let me say fly fishing books. Up come books. Look at this. Here are some books. All right, so right now I start to have some books in my market. I also have names in my market. The goal will be then to kind of go through some of these books. I know Orvis. I have an Orvis jacket, so I know that's somehow doing something. I can come in here and look at these people by using their Amazon Author Central account, and I can read about it. Tom, this guy has been a fly fisher for nearly 5 decades. He might be somebody I want to connect with in some way, right? He's a leader in this market. It might benefit me to be connected to that guy. I have a name, all right? Now I can take that name, and I can then go to Google, and I can go, let me see. Is he somebody? Look at that. Now I know what he looks like, right? Here are his books. I can now I could buy his books. I can figure out he might be a website in here. I can look over here and go, oh, look at this. Here's a biography. So now within seconds, I now know who this guy is. He has a podcast. I can listen to his podcast and subscribe to that. I can kind of go through different people and sort of look through and figure out who's the leaders in this market. I can also go and do things like this. This phrase works well. Top 10 fly fishermen. All right. So maybe I'm coming out with a book on fly fishing, or maybe I'm running a fly fishing school and I'm in Montana and I want to have some of these people come, or I may be doing a podcast, whatever it is. I'm looking for the names of people that I can connect with. So what you'll see here, the top 10 fly fishermen, you will get questions from Google, like who's the greatest fly fisherman of all time? Look at this. Now I have a whole list of people. Some of these may be dead. Ernest Hemingway is kind of, he hasn't been around for a while. But but I could do top 10 fly fishermen 2021, and I start to get names, products, services that I can connect and reach out to. So using this top 10, how to, whatever, you can search and find the names that are popular, best fly fishermen, something like that. I can take that same name and come over to YouTube, and let's see, we'll just try and see. I don't know anything about this guy, but look at that. There he is. He's 39,000 subscribers. He has a way bigger audience than I have in YouTube in fly fishing. I did this last night as I sort of preparing for this. This was really cool. There are competitions on everything. So I was just looking at fly fishing competitions. Fly fishing competitions in 2021. And what do you get? You get fly fishing competitions with people. look at this, the highlights from the World Fly Fishing Competition 2019. And what do I get? I get, let's see if this comes up here, Flylight TV. So now I know there's a TV station for this. And I'll just jump here and we'll stop it. And here are the people. All I have to do is watch this video, and I now know who are the top people in this market. I know that they go into YouTube. I can see what kind of equipment they have. I know all kinds of things about them within, what was that, 3 minutes? Something like that. So it takes a little digging to kind of go in and figure it out, but you can build out a list of people and websites that are key in your market and that you connect to. So now I can build a list, maybe a little spreadsheet that I would put together. Let's do stop screen share. I could put together a sort of a list of people, where they work, their podcasts, their videos, their websites, all that kind of stuff. I can go connect to all those people, and now I can start to put them on some kind of a, new blog post, new thing. You can reshare their blog posts, reshare their video. Everybody who's out in the market wants their stuff reshared out and pushed out to the world, and you can be that person, and you will then get on their radar, and maybe they'll come to your blog and say, Bruce has a new book on fly fishing, or he's working on a new book on fly fishing. Maybe he would be good on my podcast. It's a back and forth kind of thing. So very powerful tool that you can use to expand your market, connect with your market. It works in every single market because there's a conference for paperclips, the best paperclip people. I'm sure there is. Just look it up on Google. And so it's a way of sort of doing that and build your own dream. And don't need to do 100. Start with 5 or 10, and you can find it. So.
Excellent system. Really well planned out, Bruce. That's great. Question for you.
Yep.
Especially once you're connected to somebody. What are your thoughts on the different social media platforms? LinkedIn versus Twitter and so forth.
So my basic idea on the social media is you want to be on the platforms where your audience hangs out. So if your audience is a YouTube audience, be in YouTube. If they're a StreamYard audience, if they're an Instagram audience, be on Instagram. Be on one that you're comfortable with. Like I'm very comfortable on Facebook and YouTube. But if I saw that, I know just because of some of the stuff that I've done, people who do programming, a lot of programming stuff, and make programming products and code product books on coding and all that kind of stuff, they hang out on Twitter. So I would have to hang out on Twitter. My audience doesn't hang out on Twitter. Mine hangs out in YouTube. So hangs out on Facebook. So pick the one that relates to the audience, where your audience hangs out, and that's where you should be. And you don't need to be in all of them. Just be one you like and one where your audience is, and hopefully that's good enough. So
excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely right on to be on the one you're comfortable with. Because if you're not comfortable with TikTok, but you've heard your audience is there, then you're going to look like, I don't know if you've seen that meme of Steve Buscemi going with the skateboard going, "Hey there, fellow kids." That's totally, if you try to stumble into a platform you don't know, then you'll come blundering in. Whereas Facebook's a very intuitive platform. That's why it dominates all the others, because it's unfortunately it's so simple, which is part of why the algorithms have to be so tight, because everyone can use it. It's so easy. As I say, if it was easy, everyone would do it, and Facebook's easy.
Yeah, I thought of opening a TikTok account just because I like to sort of know about all the platforms, and I just I can't. I have enough. I can't. I'm not I'm not going to stand there and do something. It's just
it's a tough platform to figure out your way through. But it's interesting. I'm giving a talk for the Connecticut Bar Association with another speaker, and in the notes as we were discussing them, she was talking about social media platforms, and talking about LinkedIn, talking about Twitter, and then it said, should we talk about Facebook? Because Facebook's not a business platform. I'm like, well, that's too bad, because all my business comes from Facebook. So too bad it's not a business platform. It's a platform that everyone over 30 is on Facebook.
Yeah, any platform that has 2 billion users on it, you got to pay attention to it, right? You just have to. It's just right.
And LinkedIn. Yeah, just because people are on it doesn't mean they engage. So LinkedIn, everyone in business is on LinkedIn, but most of them don't actually use their stream or their feed or whatever LinkedIn calls it. So you can post something there, but you won't necessarily get the engagement because people aren't logging in and checking their LinkedIn feed.
Yeah, and I would experiment. I do a lot of stuff on. I don't spend any time on Pinterest, but I push all of my products onto Pinterest, and it has become one of my largest revenue one of my largest referral sources by driving traffic back to my sites. Looking at Google Analytics and sort of seeing what's going on. So I push everything onto Pinterest. Videos. I push blog posts, all my artwork, everything goes there. I spend zero time on it, but I know it's important for my products that it generates, revenue directly. I can see the people coming in, so, so it's a good question. So Michael, I'm in the same problem with Lois, but I know we're ready up near the top of the hour here.
Well, I guess we're out of time. Look at that. It's almost 3 o'clock.
Goodness
gracious, how time flies. That's why I do this. And then I'm going to hit end. It's just going to broadcast. And I don't need to do anything else with it. I love it. Greatest platform in the world.
Good.
So thank you both for being on the show. This has been fantastic. And I look forward to having you both back on at whenever. I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, but I'm sure someday you'll be back on because
I think it's next week.
Keep coming back.
I think I'm next week, but that's okay. That's good. Good
next week.
Yeah, I think I'm next week. So.
Oh yeah, look good.
Thank you.
Next week, Bruce Jones. So if you like Bruce, come back next week. And if you didn't like Bruce, skip next week and come back the week after. But who doesn't like Bruce Jones? And Rick, thank you for being on as well. I loved that talk about this virtual environment, which is somewhat relevant to many of us. And of course, people can get there. The website looks like it's not ready, but the button that says buy tickets works. So you do that, and it will get you access to the May event and the February videos. So
Cool.
If you like these folks, find more of them at the Conference 21 video library. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for being on the show, and everyone have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Michael.
Take care now.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.